What is going on here? What is going on here, guys? This is another amazing moment in Burkina Faso. Wow! Thousands and thousands of Burkina people in the streets of Ouagadougou heading to the airport to receive their beloved president Ibrahim Traore. This is amazing. Wow! I swear at this moment, France, US, or any other witch should give up. They just have to give up because the love for Ibrahim Traore is too much. All the African countries are behind Ibrahim Traore. So France and US, is better that you give up because there's no hope. I'm not seeing any hope again. You better surrender all. Surrender all to Ibrahim Traore because he is doing a great work for Africa. The love is too much. The love is too much. In our language, they said, "Onya neku weri hone." Somebody you're talking about, there is something that person is doing. I am very, very convinced that Burkina people are in love with Ibrahim Traore. Wow! This is a massive welcome. Ibrahim Traore is representing Burkina Faso. Ibrahim Traore is representing Africa. We are so proud of you, our youngest president in Africa. I am so happy also for all the people of Burkina Faso. You guys are amazing. You guys are wonderful. This is lovely. In fact, anyone you meet now in the street of Burkina Faso will tell you that all he or she has been praying for is Ibrahim Traore. Traore, Traore, Traore Kaigeso. Mane jeje manalala Traore Kaigeso. Ibrahim Traore, Ibrahim Traore, Traore Kaigeso. Mane jeje manalala Traore Kaigeso. I have to sing this song for him in Igbo. Traore, we are going to follow. Long live Burkina Faso, long live Ibrahim Traore. Ibrahim Traore did not go to Russia to have fun. You know, most of our African presidents, when they want to enjoy themselves, they will just fly abroad. But this time around, Ibrahim Traore have gone there for a mission. He came back with a lot of things. Guys, in this video, find out the things Ibrahim Traore came back with. It will shock you. So make sure you watch this video to the end.
Traore just returned to Burkina Faso after a long meeting with Putin. He didn't just return from Moscow. He returned with something the West fears. But what did he bring back from Russia that made global powers so uneasy that they are all looking at what happens next? Let's find out. Captain Ibrahim Traore stepped off the aircraft, and time in Burkina Faso held its breath. But this wasn't just about his safe return. This was about what came with him and who came to meet him. The Russian ambassador, standing shoulder to shoulder with the Burkinabe High Command. That's not protocol. That's a message. And the message was clear. Russia is not a distant friend anymore. It is now physically present in the political theater of Burkina Faso. The red carpet wasn't ceremonial, it was symbolic. Stretching across the tarmac like a scarlet artery, it pulsed with a new kind of blood. A shift in the geopolitical heart of West Africa. The salutes were sharp. The music is perfectly timed. But behind all the pageantry was something far more telling. The expression on Traore's face. Not relief, not joy, not triumph. Conviction. He didn't stop to wave. The message was no longer for the cameras. It was for the institutions that for decades had choreographed how African presidents behave when returning from a trip to the global north. But this time, no Western ambassadors showed up. Only Russia. Only allies of a new axis. It wasn't lost on anyone that his return took place on May 11th, the very day after the Red Square tanks rolled in celebration of Soviet defiance. Ouagadougou didn't just welcome a president, it bore witness to a shift in the gravitational pull of African diplomacy. Uniformed Burkinabe soldiers escorting Traore, not to a palace dinner, but to a private intelligence briefing. Because let's not forget, Traore's enemies are still out there. One thing was already clear. He came back different, and the country he returned to was no longer the one he left behind. And Traore stood exactly where Western-backed African leaders never dared to. Not at the back of the crowd, but beside Vladimir Putin. The Kremlin didn't treat Traore like a visitor from a poor African state. He was treated like a co-strategist. That's why the handshake lingered. That's why the motorcade that escorted him through Red Square wasn't media covered. It was intelligence guarded. That's why, between the Victory March and the Kremlin dinner, something critical happened behind doors no camera could see. And while the world debated drone strikes and oil prices, Traore was in meetings that no Western ambassador was even briefed on. He didn't just shake hands with Putin. He was briefed by Russian defense officials on the nature of hybrid warfare, economic sabotage, and how to fight enemies without uniforms. Because what Burkina Faso faces isn't just armed rebellion. It's a theater of invisible wars, mercenaries, proxies, misinformation campaigns, economic blockades. The kind of war Russia has fought for decades and survived. Sources close to the event say Traore was shown real-time cyber defense systems, satellite monitoring capabilities, joint training simulations, even a private walkthrough of Russia's post-West combat doctrine, a strategic framework not shared with just anyone. Only those who are no longer playing for the West. And the conversation didn't stop at warfare. Reports suggest that key points of discussion included Russian assistance in building a domestic weapons manufacturing base in Burkina Faso, an energy swap plan where Russia would provide fuel and machinery in exchange for gold reserves and uranium access, a proposal to create a Sahelian security hub in Burkina Faso, jointly coordinated by Russia and the AES alliance, a move that would directly challenge AFRICOM's presence in Africa. If even half of that materializes, Burkina Faso won't just be safer. It will become the nerve center of a new military and political bloc stretching from the Atlantic to the Sahara. But this wasn't just about defense. Cultural and media cooperation was also high on the list. A Russian-funded university satellite campus is reportedly being discussed, focusing on history, technology, and counter-Western narratives. There's even talk of launching a Burkina Faso-Russia international broadcaster, something to rival France 24 and BBC Africa. Only this time, with an unapologetically pan-African voice. Traore didn't beg for aid. He negotiated terms. And if you think this sounds like cold diplomacy, think again. One Russian official reportedly described Traore as a leader who sees Africa not as a victim of history, but as a future architect of power. That's not flattery. That's recognition. Because what Moscow saw, and what Paris fears, is that Traore is no longer a rebel president. He's becoming an architect of alliances that do not orbit Western approval. It's no coincidence that just days after the visit, Burkinabe officials began quietly fast-tracking defense procurement processes, some say under new Russian advice. It's also no coincidence that AES countries have since been more vocal in demanding ECOWAS respect their sovereignty. Moscow was the ignition. Ouagadougou is now the flame. And here's the part no one is saying out loud. By embracing Russia, Traore isn't just defending his country. He's inviting others to abandon the old playbook, the one that says you need French bases to survive, IMF loans to grow, and Western recognition to matter. In 3 days, Moscow taught Traore what many African leaders failed to learn in 30 years. True independence begins when you stop asking for permission. And so, when he boarded his return flight, it wasn't just his luggage that was heavier. It was his vision. You can negotiate defense deals. You can shake hands with foreign leaders. But you can't manufacture love. Not the kind that Ibrahim Traore commands across the dusty streets of Ouagadougou or the buzzing phone screens of Dakar, Bamako, and Accra. That isn't diplomacy. That's myth-building. And right now, Traore is no longer just a president. He's becoming a story. Not because of PR campaigns, not because of think tank endorsements or Western media profiles. In fact, quite the opposite. His popularity has exploded in defiance of global narratives. The very criticisms thrown at him, young, inexperienced, militaristic, anti-democratic, have become badges of honor for millions who've grown tired of leaders who are polished but powerless. Traore isn't seen as someone who took power. He's seen as someone who seized back what was stolen. What made his legend start growing wasn't just the coup in 2022, it was what followed. While other leaders arrived at summits in black SUVs to take photos with European ministers, Traore rolled up his sleeves and walked into gold mines, literally. He stood beside barefoot workers, looked into the cameras and declared, "This gold will no longer enrich foreigners while our people go hungry." That moment was clipped, shared, and looped millions of times. But something deeper was happening, a psychological shift. For the first time in decades, Burkina Faso's youth didn't see politics as distant, corrupt, or hopeless. They saw someone who spoke like them, dressed like them, fought like them. But what has elevated him from admired leader to rising symbol is how consistently he has rejected dependence. No IMF bailouts, no French military bases, no sweet-talking international donors. And now, after his Moscow visit, no hesitation in telling the world exactly which axis Burkina Faso will belong to, its own. And that scares people, not his people, their people, the ones in Brussels, Paris, Washington. Because power built on elections can be undone by elections, but power built on belief, that can only be undone by history. What you're seeing with Traore is not a regional strongman. He's becoming the center of a movement, an unwritten manifesto shared by millions across Africa that says, "We are not poor, we are robbed. We are not weak, we are sabotaged. We do not lack ideas. We lack leaders bold enough to act on them." And Traore, with his calloused rhetoric and unapologetic policies, is filling that vacuum. He's not saying what sounds good on TV. He's doing what looks real on the ground. In just 2 years, his face has gone from a military ID photo to a mural, from graffiti slogans to TikTok mashups, from university debates to rap lyrics. In Mali, students chant his name before exams. In Niger, protesters raise his portrait during anti-French demonstrations. And in Ghana, even opposition youth groups, who have nothing to do with his party or ideology, quote his speeches. That's not political, that's generational. And the West? It still doesn't know what to do with him, because he doesn't fit the mold. He's not a dictator. There are no lavish mansions, no suppression of opposition newspapers, no censorship of dissenting voices online. He's not a Democrat either. He's something in between, something newer, something terrifyingly organic, a sovereignist revolutionary built for the 21st century. He might be the first African leader of this century to gain continental admiration not because he studied abroad or speaks flawless English, but because he stayed home and spoke the truth, even when it was messy. The truth is, the African youth aren't looking for perfect men anymore. They're looking for flawed men who refuse to bow. And that's exactly what Traore is. He's imperfect, aggressive, young, and unbending. So when he returned from Moscow, the celebration wasn't choreographed. It was cellular. It happened in people's bones, because it confirmed what they already suspected. He's not compromising. He's accelerating. And every step he takes, every plane he boards, every stage he walks across, it feels like they're walking with him. This is why his portrait now hangs not just in government buildings, but in roadside cafes, classrooms, and even churches. He's no longer just the president. He's proof that you don't have to wait for permission to change your country. Traore has just returned from Moscow, not with tanks or missiles, but with ideas, alternatives, and alliances. And that is the true threat.
May your good intention for your people come to pass, and your wish for Africa come to pass. Africans are proud of you. Ghana, Nigeria, meaningful Africans are proud of you. So we pray that all your good wish for Africa and for your beloved country, Burkina Faso, will come to pass. That is our prayer for you. Long live Burkina Faso, long live Africa. Thank you so much, guys, for coming once again, and I hope you have enjoyed this video. If it's your first time coming to the channel, do us a favor by subscribing to this channel, turn the notification bell so that anytime we post video, you'll be the first to know. Thank you once again. See you on our next video, and God bless you. Bye.